I'm glad I don't have to.
You got COVID?
I was going to say, I'm glad I don't have to do this episode with a mask on.
Yes, I know. Yeah, exactly. We're in the safety of a studio.
I want to let's.
I think we've probably already had COVID because you got really sick.
I did,
and then I got really sick.
Yeah.
So
that was like well over a year ago.
Yeah, but I mean that's how long it's been. I mean, you never get sick, and I never get sick. So,
no.
So we probably had it. Whatever.
But here's the interesting part. So. New Mexico went into a further lockdown. They said record cases.
Yes.
Okay, big what?
Hospitals or capacity?
Well, there's an issue with the hospitals, right? Let's talk about this. Everybody doesn't need a damn bed. Just because a guy's got the flu, right? Yes. Or whatever it is, or they got a hangnail, don't put them on a hospital bed. Well, the reason a hospital does that is because there's money involved. It's a perverse incentive to get people to sit there. You can bill insurance. The longer someone sits there and takes up that room, okay, the more tests you can run on them, the more you're going to generate as revenue.
COVID is just amped up our medical system problems.
Yeah. So when people are like, "Oh, we're running out of beds," it's a serious. Stop putting people in beds that don't need to be in beds. Yeah. They were doing a cool thing in California where they'll put a doctor or a physician's assistant in an ambulance. Keep the people out of the hospital. So if someone they make a call, right? And the ambulance shows up with the paramedics. The doctor will be there. You don't have to drag them all the way back.
Well, that's how it used to be. Doctors used to make visits.
Well, that keeps them out of the hospital. Actually, decrease costs. A very efficient way of doing things. Mm-hmm. But my point was, in New Mexico, it's gone down to a deeper state of lockdown. They said that there's record cases. But then if you look at the amount of deaths, let's look at the data here for a second. Most of the people, actually, all of them except for one person in the most recent 18 deaths that we've had, one person was in their late 40s. Mm-hmm. The rest of them were, on average, 80 years old with a pre-existing condition that already weakened them to their state of, morbidity. Like that's it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that plus 40 person had
They had a bad pre-existing underlying condition.
Right.
So the cases are increasing, but the deaths aren't out of control. It's a very specific group that dies. Mm-hmm. It's people that are already weakened, right? And they have those pre-existing conditions and they're elderly.
Right.
They have trouble fighting. It's like the flu in the same sense. Actually, it's exactly like it.
It's exactly like it. And that's what happened. That's what happens with the flu every single year. People with underlying conditions die of the flu.
The flu kills way, way, way more people every single year.
Yes.
Way more. And when we're looking at the data here, especially in this article we have from CNN Health, they were talking about the effectiveness of a vaccine, two vaccines that have come out. One was the one that Pfizer had and the one of Moderna. And then, CNN was touting that Moderna has, the better one. You don't have to keep it as cold. It's got a longer shelf life, like a head of cabbage. But what's interesting here is that there's biases when we look at data.
Yeah, and I think this is important.
And this is very, very important because there's a lot of emotional charge around a lot of subjects. People want to skew the data to make it say whatever, message they want to say that they think is correct through their perspective. Data is extremely objective. It is what it is. But people will reskew it and put it in a different hot light like we have around here to say, like, oh no, but visually this is how it should look. So let's go through this article and let's talk about some of the issues in this and the real seriousness of how we're viewing this data and how serious is, COVID as any other virus. Viruses don't want to kill people. The body dies itself. That's just what it is. But a virus needs a host, like a human needs a home. Mm-hmm. They move back and forth. They don't just pick and choose certain people. They're just like, I'll go anywhere that fits. It's like a hermit with its shell.
Yeah, the little hermit crab. Yeah,
yeah, and I want to be very objective about that. A virus has no emotion. It's just a biological thing. Mm-hmm. It's hopping and skipping around. You pick up tons of them every single day. You don't realize it.
and different species have different ones that they're facing. In the animal kingdom,
birds,
there's all kinds of The
bird death is really high right now.
Yeah,
for whatever reason, and you find it. You find it everywhere.
Yes,
but I think we're starting to blow things out of proportion, and we need to maintain an objective look on data, how it's collected, right? So
you can see that on the far left or the far right. How they use data politically. So now everybody justifies this like, I don't need to wear a mask because masks don't do this and masks don't, a mask, and
It's
and then on the far left, it's like,
the groups.
and then on the far left, it's like mask 24/7.
It's no longer a health thing anymore.
Yeah,
it's become a political thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so now we're trying to logically use data to fix our emotional bias.
That's correct. So we become so emotionally out of whack with everything.
Yes.
We're all tense,
So it's like, hey, I have this data to support, and then next thing you know, we're sharing it.
Yeah, that's precisely right. So now let's look at something that is really popular right now. Walk us through the article, and we'll talk about this data.
Yeah. So Mr. Fauci, which everybody knows, Dr. Anthony Fauci, top infectious disease doctor.
I love how they had to put that. The nation's top
infectious disease doctor. Yeah, this is CNN. Said that it's just as good as it gets. It's 94.5% is truly outstanding. So he's already right now, he's looked at data.
Yeah.
Mr. Fauci's looked at data, and because he's giving a number, a percentage. So when somebody starts throwing out percentages or numbers, that means there's data involved.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
That's just what it is. You can't just come up with a number.
So he's coming up with 94.5%. And he said he heard this results Sunday afternoon with members of the Data Safety and Monitoring Board. And that's an independent panel that is looking, must have been, I don't know, that board must maybe be set up by the government, I would imagine.
Right?
And so if they're funneling information to him.
If you think about it from a risk management standpoint, you just don't want a company to come out with, say, oh, our vaccine's 1,000% effective. That's not possible. You can't be more than 100%, right? Or don't tout that it's more than it really is. You need some sort of third party to come in and say like, we're going to test this ourselves. We need to be independent of your profit-making process.
Yes, because that's what it is. That's what it is right now.
So
the Data Safety Monitoring Board came to him.
Yeah.
And they said that there was a genetic health assessment, and then from there, experts were saying don't expect a coronavirus before December. But now we've got two popping out, like you had said.
Yeah.
And then what he began to say is the second half of December, Fauci said this, vaccinations are expected to begin with high-risk groups and be available for the rest of the population next spring.
Yeah.
So now they took this data.
Okay. So they know. So what was a key thing right there? High-risk groups. Mm-hmm. What are your high-risk groups?
The 80 plus.
It's the 80 plus pre-existing conditions.
Right.
That is your high risk. And that right now are the people that are dying. Mm-hmm. Those are the high risk groups. And then the outliers might be someone young.
Yes.
With a pre-existing condition.
Right.
Right. So if we're looking at this, the company was Moderna, and their, chief medical officer was like, wow, this is really high efficacy. So how did they determine that efficacy? Right?
Yeah, because Pfizer said they were at 90.
Yeah.
Moderna's saying they're at 94.5. So
who cares about 4%?
Yeah, exactly.
If I get a 90 or above on a test, I'm amped up.
So here's Moderna's trial.
Yeah.
So let's break down the numbers, data numbers.
Let's look at the data here.
15,000 study participants were given a placebo.
Okay.
They always do that. Go ahead.
A placebo is not the actual drug, just so people know, right? I don't want to assume that everyone knows what a placebo is. From the mental aspect of the person receiving the shot, they don't know if they're actually getting the vaccine or they're receiving something that is really nothing going into the body. It's a saline shot. It's just salt water. So they gave 15,000 people in the study
a shot of saline.
And
that had absolutely no effect.
It does nothing.
Now, this is funny. Over several months.
Well, how many months?
Yeah, several. It says several. Several could be.
What is several?
Need to know.
Yeah.
But the 15,000 study participants, 90, not 900.
Right.
90 of them developed COVID-19.
Okay. Now, do you have your phone?
Yes.
Just get the calculator out.
We're going to divide 90 into 15,000.
So no, 90 divided by 15,000. What is that?
You know what the weirdest thing was?
What?
When I opened my phone, my calculator app, it had 90 on it.
Interesting. It was ready for us.
Yeah, it was ready.
Divide 90 by 15,000.
0.006.
0.006. So 0.6%. Okay. Of the whole group got COVID. Now, that data also doesn't tell us that 0.6%, what age these people were at, what it might be, anything, pre-existing in their life.
Right.
Who they are as a human being. We don't know that. So again, there's a lot of holes in this when you're receiving this information. So this episode's a lot about how we read data.
If we go to the doctor's office and we get a placebo, but we think it's a vaccine,
yes,
then we've just knocked it down to 0.006.
Yeah,
off of saline.
Off of saline, right?
But what people don't realize, and I know you believe this, I believe in this, the power of thought,
they've
and
shown
what it does to your body.
They've shown that placebos can be 40 to 70% effective within that range of actually, fixing whatever the issue might be, just because I guess, I don't know if it's willpower or whatever creates it, right? Yeah,
well, we will, and I don't want to get into this too heavily, but we know the body can heal itself.
Well, that's it's designed to heal. Like, you cut your skin, it heals, right? So can we do things internally? Possibly. I don't see why not.
They need to get a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza called The Placebo Effect.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But so again, we don't know what the pre-existing conditions of the people are, but we say that 0.6%, less than 1%, of the 15,000 study participants that got the placebo, up to a very small portion of them received COVID.
And this is off of their study. Now, this is interesting. 11 developed severe form of the disease. They didn't say how many died. No. But so 11 people out of 15 developed severe forms of the disease. So we don't know what that means, severe forms.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and then what percent is that, right? So what's 11 divided by 90?
11 to 8%.
Okay, so 8% of our group. So less than 10% of our group of the people that were sick were really sick.
Yes.
Okay. And again, we don't know what their age was. We don't know what their pre-existing conditions are. We don't know how they operate. None of the stuff in here is telling you what the data. So the natural holes in how the information is put into a specific lens when you're reading this information, it's missing a lot of stuff. So you need to be critical how you read these numbers.
Yes.
And especially how that data is analyzed, because however someone puts it out there, they want to do it for their benefit. They're trying to shine light to make themselves look very positive.
Yeah. And then they took, it says another 15,000 participants.
Okay.
And they were given the vaccine, the actual vaccine. And so this is what happened. Only 5 of them developed COVID-19. None of the 5 became severely ill.
Okay.
So obviously the data is showing that they're...
So we have an 85-person difference.
Yes.
So the 5 that developed the COVID, again, what age were they at?
Yes.
What were the pre-existing conditions? Were the people that developed it ones that were truly very elderly?
Well, if I did 15,000 study participants and I gave them a placebo and they were 80 and older, and then I gave 15,000 participants that were 20, 21, 22 and gave them the vaccine, I'm only going to have 5 people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Who knows? For that other group, were they all the same age? Were they all the same age?
Yes,
or was it the first group? I chose people that were older.
Or if I want to show people, that they get COVID but they recover really quickly, I would just have 20-year-olds.
Right. Yeah, so you got to have very critical eyes when you're looking at data, whether it's with your own algorithms or you're looking at third-party analysis. There's a lot of logical holes, right? And you don't want to be comparing apples to oranges. I'm not saying that a lot of these people aren't professionals, but when you go through and you read something that gets a headline like this, we have to be like, okay, I'm glad it's 94% effective. How big was the group? What do the people look like? You have to, when you analyze data, you need all of the information objectively. You can't take pieces of it and then say, oh, this is what it is. Because there's a lot of underlying factors and factors that are really not seen. And the only way you could do that is to collect more and observe more. But right now, this isn't telling us something that is truly effective for us to be like, oh, you know what, this truly is the future.
Yeah, and so that's what they've already, Fauci's already said it will be end of April. Everybody will have it. Before that, it's going to be healthcare workers, elderly, and people.
What is that? Healthcare workers and elderly.
Right.
So that they know that the elderly are the most immunocompromised out of the gate.
Right.
So then that would tell me that I would hope a large portion of their 30,000 total participants
were that. Yes.
Were
exactly.
that.
Yes.
Right. But we don't know that. And a lot of that data is missing visually for us. So if you're going to read news articles critically, or you're going to be purchasing data and analyzing yourself, make sure that there's a balance in how that data is delivered. And then also you continue to share all of that information so you're totally transparent. This article, I'm going to call it out right now, lacks a massive amount of transparency.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
It is frankly,
well, unfortunately, it's our news system.
yeah, no, it's frankly, it's untruthful and it's emotionally charged.
Yes, and it's biased towards a party. Whether
It's biased towards a party.
Fox News or CNN, it doesn't matter.
And you can read this and it's obviously very revenue driven.
Yeah, I did find it interesting though, and we can close on this, but Pfizer's the 75 degrees Celsius. That Pfizer's, it has to be at minus 75 degrees.
That's freaking cool.
So what you're looking at, and the article points this out, which I thought was interesting. This was probably the most interesting out of the article, is that now you have to have hospitals and everybody buy these special freezers.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, how many tens of thousands of these freezers do you got to buy so that they're holding at minus 75? Where Moderna's vaccine is
minus 20.
Yeah. So
which most pharmacies already have.
Yeah, exactly.
Just basic vaccine storage at that point.
Yeah. So now there's this, I mean, this war has started once COVID hit. The vaccine, whoever wins this is going to make, billions.
And you and I are looking at this non-dogmatically.
Yeah.
There's no emotion behind it. We're just looking at the numbers. And if we're people, you and I focus on numbers, it's missing so much.
Yes. Yeah. But I think the takeaway from this for me is, don't get emotionally charged. Like you said, a virus doesn't have emotion. It's not, a virus doesn't say, oh, I swing left or I swing right.
Yeah.
There's none of that. If you can remove your emotion from it and look at things logically and then take that data and get directly to the source.
Correct.
With pure logic, now you have something that you can look at. And how would we go directly to the source?
You can go directly to the source to understand pre-existing conditions, the real populace of people, by going to TARTLE.
Healthcare records.
Healthcare records. You can purchase healthcare records, genome sequences directly from the individual. So if you're using the RMNA, whatever that genomic sequence is, right? You can actually purchase all that information from the people. Mm-hmm. So you can go deeper on your studies. You can better understand the populace ahead of time. And people, which is great, that are on TARTLE are more driven, more altruistic to share that information. This article was not being altruistic. It was not sharing everything that had to be there. People want cures. They want people to be healthier. People want to see their family members live longer, even themselves. And they're more willing to share that information. So if you want to go retrieve information from the source, very granular, in-depth healthcare information, genomic, behavioral data, all of that stuff in a combination, that's going to give you the most optimal study. And you can only do it by going to TARTLE.
Yes, tartle.co. Sign up. You can purchase data or you can sell your data.
Yeah, be objective.
Yes.
And critical.
And critical, exactly.
See ya.